The film opens with a search party looking for a missing couple, Carrie and Simon. Two search dogs venture into an underground cave and drink from a mysterious fountain. When they emerge, they freeze and stare blankly at each other. That night, one of the dogs begins making a disturbing crackling sound in its cage. When their handler investigates, he discovers the two animals have been grotesquely fused together. Meanwhile, in a nearby city, Tim Brassington and Millie Wilson are throwing a farewell party before moving away. Millie is a school teacher, and Tim is a musician whose dreams have stalled. During the party, Tim chats with his bandmates, Jordy and Luke, Millie's brother, who encourages him to keep pursuing music. Mid-celebration, Millie surprises Tim with a marriage proposal using an invisible ring. Caught off guard, Tim hesitates, creating an awkward moment between them. That night, Millie is frustrated, and though Tim apologizes, tension lingers. As they lie in bed, Tim thinks he hears Millie whisper that he couldn't live without her. When he calls her name, he suddenly sees a grinning woman sitting beside a dead man across the room. As he pulls the covers over himself, she begins crawling toward him, until he bolts awake, realizing it was just a nightmare. Despite the awkwardness between them, Tim and Millie commit to moving forward and settle into their new home. Upon entering, Tim is immediately struck by a foul odor. Investigating the ceiling, he discovers what looks like a single dead rat. But it suddenly squeaks and wriggles to life, startling him into dropping it. To his horror, it's revealed the rat is part of a clump of others, all fused together by their tails. Millie soon starts her job at a new school and quickly bonds with a fellow teacher, Jamie McCabe, who also lives nearby. As they chat, Millie opens up about her uncertain relationship with Tim, admitting they're not even sure what to call each other anymore. Jamie offers to show her around the area, giving her a sense of support and familiarity. Later, Tim invites Millie on a hiking trip, hoping to reconnect, but the outing goes wrong when they get lost in the rain and fall into an underground cave. Trapped, they build a fire for warmth and drink water from a fountain, just like the dogs did earlier. As they talk, Millie asks how Tim could smell the rats in the house. Tim shares a disturbing childhood memory. His father once insisted there was a dead rat hidden somewhere, and forced Tim to search for it. Though Tim couldn't smell anything, his father tore apart the house and eventually found the rat. Not long after, his father died. But what scarred Tim most was how his mother, in the grip of a psychotic break, stayed in bed beside her husband's decomposing body for days, smiling through tears. The trauma still haunts him. By morning, Tim and Millie wake to find their legs stuck together, bonded by some strange sticky substance. When they pull apart, their skin tears, causing them to scream in pain. Despite their injuries, they manage to climb out of the cave and make their way back home. Tim begins to feel an uncanny, almost magnetic connection to Millie, despite the emotional distance that's grown between them. One morning, as Millie heads off to work, Tim steps into the shower, only to suddenly lose consciousness. His body starts moving in sync with Millie's, mirroring her motions from afar, and causing him to unintentionally injure himself. Later, Jamie stops by the house, and Tim grows suspicious that he may have feelings for Millie. After Jamie leaves, Tim kisses Millie with intense desperation. Their lips fuse together unnaturally, and when they tear apart, it leaves them in visible pain. That night, Tim begins choking in his sleep, only to pull a clump of Millie's hair from deep inside his throat. The next day, Millie drops Tim off at the train station for a band gig, but instead of boarding the train, he abandons his things and walks all the way to Millie's school. She hides him in the boys' restroom, but when he initiates sex, she eventually gives in. Their encounter turns horrific when Tim finds himself unable to pull out, his body literally stuck to hers. As they writhe in pain, a student catches a glimpse of them. Once they finally separate, Jamie walks in, prompting Tim to hide. Millie hastily covers for the situation, claiming she had a personal emergency. Later, Millie visits Jamie's house to apologize for Tim's behavior. Jamie shares a disturbing story about a local cult that once practiced bizarre rituals in the area. As he reflects on his own failed relationship, Millie notices a dazed Tim standing outside, staring through the window. That night, Millie begins levitating in her sleep, a body eerily mimicking Tim's movements. He rushes in and slaps her awake, breaking the trance. Tim visits a doctor to investigate his disturbing symptoms, but they're dismissed as panic attacks. He's given a prescription,
and the doctor told him about the missing couple in the same area.
Curious, he searches for them online and finds their final Facebook post. Analyzing the image's metadata, he uncovers GPS coordinates pointing to a spot near his and Millie's home. At the location, he also finds a strange bell marked with symbols he's seen scattered around the area. When Tim shares his findings with Millie, hoping it might explain the bizarre events happening to him, she brushes it off. She coldly compares his fears to his mother's delusions, saying he's just living with something that's already dead. That night, Tim sleeps in a separate room, but an unseen force drags both him and Millie from their beds, violently pulling them toward each other. Their arms begin fusing at the skin. They manage to wrench themselves apart, and in desperation, Tim takes the diazepam to knock himself out. The next morning, they wake to find their arms grotesquely fused together. Millie pours him whiskey, then powers up a buzzsaw. With grim determination, she saws through the shared flesh, separating them with screams of pain. After regaining composure, Millie decides they need to go to the hospital, only to realize she left her car keys at Jamie's house. Millie leaves to retrieve them while Tim stays behind, but drawn by something deeper, he returns to the cave. There, in the darkness, he finds others embedded in the walls, warped, fused forms still alive in their suffering. Among them are Carrie and Simon, now merged into a grotesque, unnatural creature. As they reach for him, Tim slashes at their fingers with a knife to escape. Millie arrives at Jamie's house, but finds it empty. Inside, a wedding video plays on a screen, showing two men, one of whom bears a strong resemblance to Jamie, participating in a strange ritual, where their bodies are fused together. Suddenly, Jamie appears and reveals the truth. He is the result of that union, a literal fusion of both men. He admits he was part of the cult he once spoke of, one that believes true completeness comes from physically merging with another. He tells Millie that he wants the same for her and Tim. Without warning, Jamie slashes Millie's wrist in an attempt to force the transformation, but Millie fights back, striking him across the face. The blow causes his form to split, separating him back into the two original men. Millie flees back to the house, bleeding and panicked. There, she finds Tim, who has returned from the cave. Resigned to their fate, he prepares to cut his own throat to stop whatever is happening to them. As an invisible force begins pulling them together again, Tim gently echoes Millie's earlier proposal, confessing his deep love for her. Millie, showing him her wounded wrist, tearfully accepts her fate and collapses into his arms. Frantic, Tim brings her inside. When she regains consciousness, she sees that Tim has willingly fused his arm to hers to stop the bleeding and keep her alive. Realizing they can't escape this transformation, the two finally surrender to it. Embracing what they are becoming, they profess their love, strip off their clothes, and dance naked to Say You'll Be There by the Spice Girls. As they kiss, their bodies begin merging completely, becoming one. Later, Millie's parents arrive for Sunday dinner. When the front door opens, they're greeted by a calm, androgynous figure, neither Tim nor Millie, but someone who eerily resembles them both.
And that's the end of the story. I hope you liked it. Comment down below what movies do you like us to recap next. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.